I never believed in the idea that houses could remember people until the night I woke up at 3:18 a.m. with the heavy feeling that someone was standing inside my room, watching me breathe. The darkness felt thicker than usual, pressing against my eyes as if it didn't want me to see clearly, and for a moment I convinced myself it was just another nightmare, until I heard the floorboard creak slowly near my bedroom door, followed by a soft dragging sound that reminded me of bare feet sliding. Across wood, I held my breath and listened, my heart beating so loudly I was sure whatever was out there could hear it too. Then a whisper floated through the darkness, calm and patient, calling my name the way someone does when they already know you're awake. I wanted to answer, to shout, to run, but my body refused to move, and that's when I realized the whisper wasn't coming from the hallway anymore. It was coming from inside the walls, traveling through the house like it had memorized every room, every corner, every place I thought was safe. The whisper told me it had been waiting a very long time, longer than I had lived there, longer than the house had been empty before I moved in, and as the voice spoke, memories that weren't mine began flooding my mind. Images of a family that once lived there, a mother crying in the kitchen late at night, a child hiding under the bed holding his breath, and a man standing in the doorway with something heavy in his hands. The whispers grew, louder as the memories ended, replaced by the sound of knocking, not on the door, but beneath the floor, like something trapped below the house was asking to be let out. The knocking matched my heartbeat perfectly, slow at first, then faster, desperate, until the room felt like it was vibrating. I squeezed my eyes shut and prayed for it to stop, but the voice laughed softly and told me it didn't need permission anymore because the house had already accepted me. That's when I felt the mattress sink slightly beside me as if someone had sat down. Cold air brushed against my face, carrying the smell of damp earth and old wood, and I knew without looking that whatever had been whispering was now inches away. The voice told me that every house needs someone to remember it, someone to keep its stories alive, and that the people before me had tried to leave too, but the house doesn't let go easily. I felt fingers, too long, too thin, pressed gently against my wrist, tracing my pulse like it was. Counting how much time I had left, the room began to feel smaller, the walls slowly closing in as shadows crawled across the ceiling, twisting into shapes that looked almost human. And the voice explained that fear was how the house feeds, how it grows stronger, how it keeps people from being forgotten. I tried to scream but no sound came out, and in that silence I heard footsteps again, many of them, moving through the house above and below me, as if every person who had ever lived there was walking at the same time, reliving their final moments. The mattress dipped again, closer now, and I felt something lean down toward my ear, whispering that morning would come, the sun would rise, and the world outside would go on as if nothing had happened. But I would never truly leave this place, because even if my body escaped, a part of me would always remain, trapped in the walls, in the floors, in the quiet moments when someone new moves in and wakes up at 3 a.m. feeling watched. And, just before the whisper faded, it told me the most terrifying truth of all. That this wasn't the first night it had spoken to me. It was simply the first night I remembered listening. I woke up choking on silence at exactly 3:33 a.m., the kind of silence that feels alive, like the house itself was holding its breath, and before I could even move, I realized I wasn't alone because the air felt heavy, crowded, as if something invisible was standing so close I could almost feel its shape. My eyes adjusted slowly to the darkness, and that's when I noticed the bedroom door was wide open even though I always lock it before sleeping. And from the hallway came a sound that made my stomach drop, a slow, wet dragging noise, like something being pulled across the floor that didn't want to walk on its own. I tried to sit up but my body refused to obey, my chest tightening as whispers began leaking from every direction at once. Not loud, not rushed, but calm, patient, repeating my name again and again as if memorizing it. The whispers told me they had been watching me since the first night I moved in, counting my breaths, learning my habits, waiting for the exact moment I would finally wake up and listen. And as they spoke, the temperature in the room dropped so suddenly that my skin burned with cold, my breath turning shallow as the mattress beside me slowly sank down, inch by inch, as if something heavy had sat there. I felt the bed creak under its weight and smelled something rotten and old, like soil pulled from deep underground, and without looking I knew it was smiling because the voice began to tremble with excitement as it told me the house was hungry, and I had lived there long enough to belong to it, Shadows started peeling themselves off the walls, stretching unnaturally across the ceiling, forming long limbs that bent the wrong way, crawling closer until they wrapped around my body, pinning me in place, and then I heard footsteps. Not one set, but dozens. Moving above me, below me, inside the walls, inside the floor, each step replaying the final moments of people who had screamed here before me. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, begging, laughing, warning me that every person who tried to escape either disappeared or stayed forever in pieces, trapped as sounds, as shadows, as cold spots in empty rooms, and just when I thought the fear couldn't get worse, something leaned down so close to my face that its breath brushed my ear, and it whispered that I wasn't awake now. I was finally remembering the nights that had already taken parts of me while I slept, the dreams that weren't dreams at all, the scratches on my skin I couldn't explain, the exhaustion that never left, and as its fingers, too many, too thin, wrapped around my throat, squeezing just enough to remind me how fragile I was. It promised that morning would come, people would see me again, talk to me again, but I would never truly leave this house because it had already carved its place inside my mind, and as my vision darkened and the whispers faded into laughter, I understood the most terrifying truth of all, that the house never wanted my body. It wanted my fear, my memories, and my voice. So one day, when someone else wakes up here at 3:33 a.m., the whisper calling their name will sound exactly like mine. I woke up screaming at 3:47 a.m., but no sound came out of my mouth. My throat locked tight as if something invisible was gripping it from the inside. And the first thing I noticed was that I couldn't hear the house anymore. Not the fan, not the clock, not even my own breathing. Only a low, distant humming that felt like it was coming from beneath the floor, vibrating through my bones, and as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I realized the walls around me were covered in faint handprints, appearing slowly one by one as if unseen hands were pressing from the other side, leaving trails that slid downward and disappeared into the floor. Panic crawled up my spine as I tried to move, but my body felt pinned in place, and that's when the bed dipped sharply, much deeper than before, as if something far heavier than a human had climbed onto it. The air grew thick and sour, carrying the smell of rust and wet earth, and a voice began speaking directly inside my head. Not loud, not angry, but calm and certain, telling me that this room had been sealed for a reason. That people used to lock the door from the outside and pray whoever was inside would stop screaming before morning. The humming beneath the floor turned into muffled crying, dozens of voices layered together, begging, choking, pleading to be remembered. And as the voice continued, memories flooded my mind that didn't belong to me. Images of bodies dragged across the same floor, fingernails snapping as they clawed at the walls, faces staring up from the darkness below the house, still awake, still waiting. The thing on the bed leaned closer, its weight crushing the mattress until I felt the springs digging into my back, and I felt its breath slide across my neck, cold and damp, whispering that the house doesn't kill quickly. It keeps people just alive enough to listen, to feel, to understand what it means to be trapped forever. The handprints on the walls suddenly pressed harder, bulging outward as if the walls were about to tear open, and I realized the crying wasn't coming from beneath the floor anymore. It was coming from inside the room, from inside me, and just before the humming stopped, the voice promised that when the sun rose, I would wake up in my bed believing I survived, but every night after that, a little more of me would stay behind, sinking into the walls, into the floor, into the darkness, until one night I wouldn't wake up at all, and the next person to sleep here would hear a familiar voice crying softly from beneath their bed, begging them not to make the same mistake I did.